You share some fascinating material with us this week. And one concept that really jumped out was this idea of selling as service.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the surface, that might sound a little counterintuitive, right?
It can, yeah.
We often think of selling as, trying to get someone to buy something. But what if we flip that? What if instead we thought about it as genuinely helping someone get what they need?
Right.
Imagine you're incredibly thirsty, maybe, and a friend offers you a cold drink.
They're not really selling you in the traditional sense, are they?
Not at all, no.
They're addressing a need. That's kind of the core idea we're going to explore today based on your synopsis.
It's a perspective shift that, well, as you'll see from the material you provided, it has some surprisingly deep implications, not just for business success, but for building more meaningful connections in general.
Really? How so?
It moves things beyond just a purely transactional mindset.
Mm.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
for you, as you're considering these ideas, we're going to dig into what selling as service truly means, what the potential upsides, and maybe even some of the less obvious downsides might be,
Okay.
and how embracing this approach, as highlighted in your sources, can lead to more sustainable and, frankly, more rewarding outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And to really bring this to life, we'll be looking at the journey of an entrepreneur named Alex and his eco-friendly backpack business, Green Packs.
Right, the Green Pack story.
Yeah, your materials detail how Alex initially struggled quite a bit with sales
Yeah.
until he shifted his focus.
Yeah, and what's particularly interesting when we look at Alex's experience through the lens of your sources is how this principle focusing on service, it kind of ripples through every aspect of his business.
Oh, really? Like beyond just the sales team?
Absolutely. From his internal team to his customers. It's not just a sales tactic. It becomes more of a foundational philosophy.
Okay, so based on what you've shared, let's really unpack this for you, the listener. What does selling as service actually mean in a tangible sense? It sounds good, but how does it change how someone operates day to day?
Well, in essence, selling as service, as your sources emphasize, it puts the focus squarely on the other person, on understanding their specific challenges, needs, or, aspirations.
Okay, so less about me and more about them.
Exactly. Instead of leading with what you have to offer, you start by trying to understand their world. It's about recognizing that a potential purchase is usually driven by a desire to solve a problem or achieve some goal.
Right.
So your primary aim shifts from simply making a transaction to becoming like a partner in helping them reach that solution or goal. The value you provide comes first.
That makes a lot of sense. It's less about saying, here's what I've got, and more about asking, what are you trying to accomplish, and how can I maybe contribute to that?
You got it.
Your materials outline some key benefits of this approach. The first one is that, well, people tend to like you more. Now, why is that such a big deal in a business context?
Well, when your interactions are rooted in a genuine desire to help, trust naturally starts to blossom.
Okay.
As your sources likely pointed out, people are pretty perceptive. They can usually tell when someone is truly invested in their well-being versus just, trying to make a quick sale.
Right, you can feel it.
You can. And this builds rapport, much like having a reliable friend who genuinely has your back. That foundation of trust is just invaluable for fostering enduring relationships, which, as we'll see, has significant long-term benefits for pretty much any endeavor.
And building that positive connection leads, I guess, to the second benefit.
Yeah,
You actually feel better about the work you're doing.
definitely.
It becomes less about just hitting targets and more about the satisfaction of making a real difference for someone.
That intrinsic reward is a powerful motivator, isn't it? When you're driven by a purpose beyond just monetary gain, the purpose of serving others, it often fuels greater dedication and resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And this authenticity, this sense of purpose, often resonates with others too, creating a more positive and collaborative dynamic all around.
And here's a point in your materials that's particularly interesting. By focusing on service, you'll likely sell more in the long run.
Yes, that often surprises people.
It might seem counterintuitive focusing less on the direct sale, but the data often supports this. Why do you think that is?
Well, if we connect this back to the idea of building trust and strong relationships, it becomes clearer, right?
Okay.
Satisfied individuals are just far more likely to become repeat clients or customers.
Sure, that makes sense.
And they also act as natural advocates, spreading positive recommendations, which, as your sources may have indicated, is often the most credible form of promotion you can get.
Word of mouth.
Exactly. So while the initial interaction prioritizes service, the long-term effect is often greater success and stability.
So it sounds like a win-win, but your materials also rightly point out that there are potential risks involved.
Oh, for sure. It's not without its challenges.
Right. So what are some of the key challenges or maybe downsides to be aware of if you adopt a selling as service approach?
Okay, so one of the first potential pitfalls highlighted is that some individuals might try to exploit a consistently helpful stance.
Ah, okay. Like take advantage.
Yeah. If your primary mode of operation is always to assist, some might see that as an opportunity to ask for, excessive discounts, free services, or just generally take advantage of your goodwill.
Mhm.
It's a delicate balance. Being generous while also establishing healthy boundaries is really crucial.
That's a really important distinction. You don't want to become like a doormat.
Definitely not.
What's another potential risk you saw in the materials?
Another consideration is that genuinely understanding and addressing someone's needs often requires a greater upfront investment of time and effort.
Right.
Active listening, thoughtful questioning, maybe even researching solutions that can take longer than a purely transactional interaction.
Yeah.
So in the short term, this might feel less efficient.
Right. It's not always the quickest path in that immediate moment. And the last risk mentioned is something that I could see easily happening.
Yeah.
You might become so focused on the service aspect that you forget to actually talk about what you offer.
Precisely. That's a real danger. The service element is the approach, but ultimately you still need to connect that helpfulness to your product or your service or your idea.
Okay.
You need to clearly articulate how what you offer actually solves their problem or fulfills their need. The service facilitates the connection, but the offering is the vehicle for delivering the value.
Your sources give a great example here with selling cookies.
Ah, the cookie example.
Instead of just pushing the sale, you first understand if they have a need, like maybe needing treats for an event.
Right, for a party or something.
Yeah. And then position your cookies as the perfect solution for that specific need. It directly links the service to the sale.
That's an excellent illustration of how to effectively bridge that gap. It starts with understanding the context of their need and then clearly positions your offering as the ideal way to meet it.
And this brings us back to Alex and Greenpacks. Initially, your materials say he was really enthusiastic about the features, the recycled materials, the cool
Yes,
design.
right.
Yeah, exactly. But he wasn't connecting those features to the underlying reasons why someone would actually need a backpack. He was missing that crucial element of understanding the customer's perspective
Yeah.
and offering his product as a service to meet their needs.
Exactly. He was focusing on what he had rather than what his potential customers were actually looking for. And that naturally leads to the next critical step highlighted in your materials,
Ah.
actively seeking to understand those needs in the first place.
Right.
What your sources cleverly refer to as listening like a detective.
I love that imagery. So for you, the listener, as you engage with others, what does it really mean to listen like a detective to uncover their needs effectively?
Well, it's about moving beyond just passive hearing to active engagement, really listening. It involves asking open-ended questions that encourage the other person to elaborate on their situation, their challenges, their desired outcomes.
Not just yes/no questions.
Definitely not. And it's not just about the words they use, but also paying attention to nonverbal cues, their tone of voice, their body language. To gain a more complete understanding, it's about being truly present in the conversation.
So what are the tangible benefits for you when you adopt this detective mindset and really listen deeply to understand what someone needs?
Well, one of the primary benefits, as your sources likely pointed out, is just efficiency.
Efficiency. How so?
You avoid wasting time and effort trying to offer solutions to people who don't actually have the problem you're addressing. The analogy used in your materials of aiming a water gun at the right target is spot on. You're directing your energy where it's most likely to be effective.
That's so true. Nobody wants to feel like they're being sold something they have absolutely no use for.
Right. It's annoying.
What's another key advantage of this deep listening?
Well, when you truly grasp someone's needs, you're in a far better position to offer the most appropriate solution, not just a generic one.
Tailored, yeah.
Exactly. It's akin to a doctor making an accurate diagnosis before prescribing treatment. This tailored approach is just much more impactful and significantly enhances the value you provide.
And I imagine when someone feels truly heard and understood, it builds a much stronger connection. Your materials emphasize that people feel valued when you take the time to really listen.
Absolutely. That feeling of being understood creates a powerful emotional connection. It signals that you genuinely care about helping them specifically, rather than just making a transaction. This fosters greater trust and strengthens the foundation of any relationship.
But just as with the broader concept of selling as service, your sources also highlight potential risks associated with this deep listening phase.
Yep, there are pitfalls here too.
What are some of the challenges or things to watch out for?
Well, one challenge is that people aren't always able to clearly articulate their needs. They might have a vague sense of dissatisfaction or a problem they haven't fully defined themselves. In these situations, your role as the detective involves asking those probing questions that help them clarify their own thinking and uncover the root of the issue.
So sometimes you actually need to help them understand their own needs better first.
Often, yes, that makes sense.
What's another potential pitfall in this listening process?
Misinterpreting what someone says is another significant risk. Language can be ambiguous, right?
Oh, yeah.
And people may not always express themselves with perfect clarity. That's why asking clarifying or follow-up questions is so essential to ensure you've accurately understood their intended meaning. Don't hesitate to check your understanding.
So if I hear you correctly, kind of thing.
Exactly. Let me make sure I've got this right.
I know I've been guilty of this myself. It can be tempting to jump in with a solution as soon as you think you understand, but your materials caution against interrupting. Why is that so important?
Well, interrupting can prevent you from getting the complete picture. Simple as that.
Okay.
You might miss crucial details or nuances that would significantly influence the best way to assist them. Allowing them to fully express themselves ensures you have all the necessary information before you jump in.
The example provided in your sources of someone being tired after school,
Yes, the pillow example.
leading to a conversation about sleep, and maybe a comfy pillow, really illustrates this. A superficial statement can mask a deeper need that only comes out with further listening.
Exactly. It's about digging beneath those initial statements to uncover the underlying needs and challenges. It takes a bit more effort.
And your materials point out how Alex applied this by shifting from just talking about his backpacks to actively asking people at markets about their experiences with backpacks, what they liked, what frustrated them. He also started really listening to his team's challenges and ideas, didn't he?
He did. That shift from broadcasting to actively seeking input was apparently transformative for Alex. It provided him with invaluable insights directly from his target audience and his internal stakeholders.
Makes sense.
And this deeper understanding then paved the way for the next crucial step, effectively showing how you can help, or as your sources describe it, creating value.
Okay, so you've done the detective work. You think you understand their needs. Now you need to clearly demonstrate how what you offer provides a solution. Your materials call this creating value.
Right.
And it's like showing that thirsty person exactly how that cold drink will not only quench their thirst, but also make them feel refreshed and energized.
Precisely. It's about explicitly connecting the features and benefits of your offering to the specific needs you've uncovered through that diligent listening. You're articulating and demonstrating the tangible value they will receive by choosing what you offer.
And what are the key benefits for you when you are effective at creating and communicating this value?
Well, firstly, it becomes much clearer to people why they should choose you.
Okay.
You're not just presenting a product or a service in isolation. You're presenting a tailored solution to their specific problem. This differentiation is critical in, well, any competitive environment.
It moves beyond just having something available to showing how it directly improves their situation.
Exactly.
What's another advantage of clearly demonstrating value?
Well, when individuals understand the direct benefit they will receive, they are generally much more willing to make a commitment, whether that's a purchase or some kind of agreement.
Okay.
The perceived value outweighs the cost or the effort involved. They see it as a worthwhile investment in their own well-being or goals.
And I can imagine that effectively showing how you can help also builds excitement and maybe anticipation around what you're offering.
Absolutely. By clearly articulating the positive outcomes and even demonstrating the impact of your offering, you can generate genuine enthusiasm and desire. It moves beyond a purely rational decision to one that also involves positive emotion.
But there are also potential pitfalls when it comes to demonstrating value, right? Your materials outline some risks here too.
Oh yes, definitely things to watch out for. One significant risk is focusing on the wrong benefits.
Wrong benefits.
How so? You might be emphasizing features or advantages that you perceive as important, but they don't actually resonate with what your potential client or customer truly cares about.
Okay. Your priorities aren't necessarily theirs.
Exactly. It's essential to frame your value proposition from their perspective, aligning it directly with their expressed needs.
So it's about their priorities, not your assumptions. What's another potential misstep in communicating value?
Not explaining the value clearly and simply is another common risk. You might have a deep understanding of how your offering helps, but if you fail to communicate that in a concise and compelling way, the other person just might not grasp its relevance.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. Use clear language and, wherever possible, illustrate the benefits with examples or demonstrations. Make it tangible.
And you definitely want to avoid the temptation to overstate what you can deliver, right? Your sources mention exaggeration as a potential danger.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Integrity is paramount here.
Hmm.
Exaggerating claims or making promises you can't keep will quickly erode trust, undermining the entire foundation of selling as service.
Yes.
Always be honest and realistic about what you can provide.
The example in your materials of selling a bike really highlights this.
A bike, yeah.
If someone's primary need is a faster commute to school, you emphasize the speed and ease of riding,
Right.
rather than getting bogged down in technical details about the gears unless they specifically ask.
Exactly. You're focusing on the benefit that directly addresses their stated need, making the value immediately apparent.
And when we look back at Alex, we see him applying this by refining his green packs based on the feedback he received.
Learning from the listening.
Yeah. He then highlighted those key benefits in his marketing: the comfort for students, the durability for travelers, the style for everyday use, and of course the eco-friendly aspect for those who valued sustainability.
He tailored the message, and internally, the sources say, he created value for his team by clearly explaining the why behind their tasks, helping them see the bigger picture and the impact of their work.
That internal piece seems really important too.
It's crucial. When your team understands and values their contribution, it naturally translates into a better experience for your external customers. It all connects.
And all of these elements, understanding needs, demonstrating value, lead directly to something absolutely foundational in any interaction, but especially in selling as service, building trust.
Yes, trust.
Your materials aptly describe this as being like a trustworthy friend.
That's a powerful and, I think, accurate analogy. Trust is the essential bedrock of any strong and lasting relationship. And in the context of service, it's really the cornerstone upon which all successful interactions are built.
Yeah.
People need to feel confident in your honesty, your reliability, and your genuine commitment to their best interests.
And the advantages of cultivating that trust are immense, aren't they?
Absolutely. Firstly, it creates a sense of safety and security for people when they're considering engaging with you.
Okay.
They feel confident that they won't be misled or taken advantage of. This psychological safety is a major factor in their decision-making process.
And once you've established that trust, it seems like it would naturally lead to people wanting to work with you again. Your materials mention repeat business as a key benefit.
Precisely. Trust fosters loyalty. Customers or clients who trust you are far more likely to return for future needs and to become long-term partners, which, reduces the need to constantly acquire new relationships.
Right, less churn. And the power of a good recommendation can't be overstated. Your sources highlight that people who trust you are also much more likely to recommend you to others.
That word-of-mouth endorsement is incredibly valuable. Recommendations from trusted sources often carry more weight than traditional marketing and can be a significant driver of new opportunities. It's huge.
But just like with all the other aspects we've discussed, there are also potential pitfalls and risks associated with building and maintaining trust.
Always.
What are some of those?
Well, one of the most significant risks is simply that trust is fragile. It can be easily broken. A single negative experience or a perceived act of dishonesty can quickly erode the trust that has taken maybe time and effort to build. The impact can be really long-lasting.
It's like a delicate structure that can collapse very easily. What's another challenge in building trust?
Building genuine trust requires time and consistent effort. It's not something that can be rushed or faked. You need to consistently demonstrate honesty and reliability in all your interactions over time to really solidify that trust.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. And the last risk mentioned is the danger of trying to be insincere or inauthentic.
Faking it.
Yeah. Authenticity is absolutely key. People are generally very good at sensing when someone is not being genuine, and any hint of insincerity can quickly undermine any attempts to build trust. Being true to yourself and your values is essential.
The example in your materials of the toy robot ensuring it works as promised and promptly and sincerely addressing any issues that really demonstrates how reliability and honesty build trust in a tangible way.
Exactly. It shows that you stand behind what you offer and that you genuinely care about the other person's experience and satisfaction, even if something goes wrong.
And Alex apparently built trust externally by being transparent about the sustainable materials he used in green packs and his ethical production practices.
Right. That transparency matters.
And internally, he fostered trust within his team by maintaining open communication and being honest about the company's challenges and successes.
That internal consistency is vital. When your team feels trusted and informed, it creates a culture of transparency that naturally extends to your interactions with the outside world.
Now, even with the strongest foundation of trust and a genuine commitment to service, people will inevitably have questions, concerns, or objections.
And absolutely, it's normal.
So the next section in your materials discusses how to effectively handle these by adopting a problem-solving mindset.
That's such a critical skill in selling as service, instead of viewing concerns as obstacles to a sale or like roadblocks.
Right, like something negative.
Yeah. You see them as opportunities to provide further clarification, build deeper rapport, and ultimately strengthen the relationship.
Okay. And the benefits of handling concerns effectively seem pretty clear. The first is that you have the chance to clear up any misunderstandings.
Often, yeah. A concern stems from a lack of complete information or maybe just a simple misinterpretation. By patiently addressing their questions and providing accurate information, you can often resolve their doubts and ease their concerns.
That's about being a helpful resource and providing clarity. What's another important benefit of addressing concerns well?
Well, when you take the time to really listen to and address someone's concerns, it demonstrates that you genuinely care about their perspective and their satisfaction. It shows that you're invested in helping them find the right solution, even if it means acknowledging potential drawbacks or limitations of what you offer.
And I imagine that successfully turning a no, or maybe a maybe, into a yes by thoughtfully addressing a concern can be a really positive outcome.
Absolutely. Overcoming objections by providing helpful information and solutions can not only lead to a successful outcome, but also significantly enhance the other person's confidence in their decision and, frankly, in you.
But there are also definitely ineffective ways to handle concerns. Your materials outline some of the risks to avoid in these situations, right?
Oh, definitely. One common pitfall is becoming defensive or taking the concern personally.
Ooh, yeah. Easy to do.
It is. But it's crucial to remember that an objection isn't necessarily a rejection of you personally, but rather an expression of a need for more information or reassurance. Staying calm and objective is key.
That can be tough sometimes, but it's a really important reminder. What's another potential mistake to avoid when addressing concerns?
Feeling pressured to have all the answers immediately can be another risk.
Right. Like you have to know everything on the spot.
Yeah, but it's perfectly acceptable and often advisable, actually, to admit when you don't know something and to commit to finding out and getting back to them. Honesty and a willingness to follow through are much more valuable than bluffing or guessing.
Good point. And your materials strongly emphasize that ignoring concerns is never a productive approach.
Precisely. Ignoring a concern will not make it disappear. It will likely just fester and escalate, probably leading to a negative outcome and a damaged relationship. Addressing concerns directly and respectfully is always the best course of action.
The example of the video game being perceived as too difficult is a great illustration.
Right.
Instead of dismissing the concern, you show the easy levels, you explain the learning curve, offering a solution and managing expectations.
It reframes the perceived obstacle into a manageable challenge, right? Providing reassurance and a clear path forward.
And Alex demonstrated effective handling of concerns by being responsive and helpful to customer inquiries, even offering a repair service for his backpacks.
That's great service.
Yeah. Internally, he approached team challenges not as blame-finding exercises, but as problems to solve collaboratively.
That proactive and supportive approach, both with customers and within his team, really reinforces the whole selling as service ethos. It creates a culture of continuous improvement and mutual support.
Okay, so we've covered understanding needs, demonstrating value, building trust, and handling concerns. Now we arrive at what some might see as the ultimate goal, closing the deal.
The close, yeah.
But your materials frame this differently, as simply asking for the yes. and a helpful and natural way.
Exactly. If you've diligently focused on providing service and value throughout the interaction, asking for the commitment, whether it's a sale, an agreement, whatever, it becomes a logical and natural progression.
Right.
It's about helping them take the final step to obtain the solution they need or want.
And what are the benefits of approaching this closing stage with that helpful mindset?
Well, firstly, you are actually assisting them in getting what they desire or need. Sometimes people appreciate a gentle prompt or reassurance to finalize a decision, even if they are already leaning towards it. You're helping them move forward.
It's like offering a helpful nudge rather than applying pressure.
Exactly. What's another benefit of a service-oriented approach to closing? Successfully concluding the interaction allows you to then move on and serve other individuals.
Practical.
Yeah. If you get stuck in prolonged indecision, you're not maximizing your ability to help others. A clear and respectful close allows you to continue providing value elsewhere.
That's a practical point. It allows for efficiency in your service.
Yeah.
And the third benefit highlighted is that it feels like a natural culmination of a helpful interaction.
It should, right. If you've built rapport, understood their needs, and effectively demonstrated how you can help, asking for the commitment shouldn't feel awkward or forced. It's the logical next step in the process you've built together.
But there are definitely ways to mishandle this final stage. What are some of the risks associated with closing?
Well, one of the most significant risks is coming across as pushy or aggressive or manipulative.
A hard sell.
Yeah, exactly. High-pressure tactics can damage the trust you've worked so hard to build and leave the other person feeling resentful or maybe taken advantage of. It should always feel like their choice.
It's about empowering them to make a decision, not forcing their hand. What's another potential misstep at the closing stage?
Missing the opportune moment to ask is another pitfall. You need to be attentive to their cues, verbal and nonverbal, to sense when they are ready to make a decision.
Timing.
Yeah. Asking too early might make them feel rushed, while waiting too long could lead to them losing interest or maybe finding another solution while you hesitate.
It's about finding that right balance in timing. And the last risk mentioned is something I think many people find challenging: the fear of actually asking.
Oh, definitely. Especially if you have a strong service orientation, you might feel hesitant to sell. But remember, if you've genuinely provided value and addressed their needs, you've earned the right to ask for their commitment. They likely want what you're offering by that point.
The tutoring example really illustrates this. Well, after demonstrating how tutoring can improve their grades, it's a natural and helpful next step to ask if they'd like to schedule their first session.
Exactly. It's a logical progression that serves their best interest.
And it's reasonable to infer from your materials that Alex, having focused on building strong relationships and clearly demonstrating the value of green packs, likely found asking for the sale to be a more natural and less daunting part of his interaction.
It seems likely. By prioritizing service throughout the process, the yes becomes a more likely and sort of organic outcome.
Now, the concept of selling as service doesn't conclude once the deal is finalized, does it?
Not at all.
The final section of your materials rightly emphasizes the importance of continuing to provide service after the sale. It's akin to checking in with that thirsty friend, even after they've finished their drink, to make sure they're feeling better.
That ongoing commitment to customer satisfaction is what truly builds lasting loyalty and transforms one-time transactions into long-term relationships. Post-sale service is a critical component of the overall service experience, often overlooked maybe.
And the benefits of this continued service seem substantial. The first is that you further strengthen the relationship you've already built.
Right. Following up after a commitment is made demonstrates that your care extends beyond the immediate transaction. It reinforces the idea that you genuinely value their experience and are there to support them. This builds even deeper trust and strengthens the bond.
And happy clients are much more likely to return for future needs and to spread positive feedback, aren't they? That's the second key benefit: future business and valuable referrals.
Absolutely. Satisfied customers become your most effective advocates. Their positive experiences lead to repeat business and those organic referrals, which are incredibly powerful for growth. It's a virtuous cycle.
And the third benefit highlighted is that post-sale interaction provides invaluable opportunities for you to learn and improve.
Yes, feedback. Feedback received after the fact, both positive and constructive, offers crucial insights into what you're doing well and where you can enhance your products, services, or overall customer experience. It's a vital part of continuous improvement.
But just as before, there are potential pitfalls to be mindful of in this post-commitment phase.
Always a balance. One risk is dedicating maybe so much time and resources to post-sale support for one client that it detracts from your ability to serve new clients effectively.
Right.
Finding a sustainable balance in your ongoing support is important.
You need to be helpful without becoming completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
What's another potential challenge in post-sale service?
Taking any negative feedback personally can be a pitfall.
Hard not to sometimes?
It is. But instead of getting defensive, try to view it as a valuable opportunity to learn and grow. Constructive criticism, while sometimes difficult to hear, can be incredibly beneficial in the long run if you let it be.
It's a chance to refine and get better. And the last risk mentioned is the danger of simply forgetting about past clients once the transaction is complete. Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, exactly. Staying connected with past clients, even through occasional check-ins or maybe sharing relevant updates, helps keep your relationship alive and your brand top of mind for future needs or referrals. Don't let those valuable connections just fade away.
The example in your materials of following up after a toy purchase to ensure satisfaction and offering assistance really exemplifies this continued care.
It does. It reinforces the message that your commitment extends beyond the point of purchase and that you're invested in their ongoing satisfaction.
And we see Alex applying this principle by actively following up with his Greenpacks customers, soliciting feedback, and even fostering a community around his brand.
Building that community.
Yeah. He also made sure to consistently acknowledge and appreciate his team's ongoing contributions, recognizing that internal selling as service is an ongoing commitment too.
That holistic approach, applying the principles of service consistently both internally and externally, is what ultimately leads to enduring success and positive impact.
So as we bring this deep dive to a close, the core message from your materials seems really clear. Selling, at its heart, isn't about pressure or manipulation,
Not at all.
but about genuinely understanding people's needs, proactively offering help, building a foundation of trust through consistent honesty and reliability, and ultimately striving to improve their lives in some meaningful way.
Exactly. It represents a fundamental shift from a purely transactional focus to a more relationship-centered approach, where providing authentic value and cultivating lasting connections are the primary drivers.
And we've seen through the example of Alex and Greenpacks, as detailed in your resources, how embracing this selling as service philosophy, both in his interactions with his customers and his team, propelled his business from struggling to thriving. It wasn't just about the quality of his eco-friendly backpack, so I'm sure they were good, but about the service-oriented approach he embedded throughout his entire operation.
His journey powerfully illustrates that prioritizing service isn't just, a commendable ethical stance. It's also a highly effective and sustainable strategy for achieving your goals and making a real difference.
So for you listening, as you move forward, maybe consider how you can integrate these principles of selling as service into your own interactions, both professionally and personally.
Yeah.
How can you become a better listener, a more effective problem solver, and a more trustworthy partner? Perhaps focusing on genuinely helping others in whatever capacity you find yourself can unlock unexpected opportunities and lead to more fulfilling outcomes in ways you haven't even imagined yet. It's definitely a perspective worth exploring further. You share some fascinating material with us this week, and one concept that really jumped out was this idea of selling as service. Now, on the surface, that might sound a little counterintuitive, right?
It can, yeah.
We often think of selling as, trying to get someone to buy something. But what if we flip that? What if instead we thought about it as genuinely helping someone get what they need?
Right.
Imagine you're incredibly thirsty, maybe, and a friend offers you a cold drink.
They're not really selling you in the traditional sense, are they?
Not at all, no.
They're addressing a need. That's kind of the core idea we're going to explore today based on your synopsis.
It's a perspective shift that, well, as you'll see from the material you provided, it has some surprisingly deep implications, not just for business success, but for building more meaningful connections in general.
Really? How so?
It moves things beyond just a purely transactional mindset, Exactly. So
Yeah.
for you, as you're considering these ideas, we're going to dig into what selling as service truly means.